environment and human health can be negatively impacted. These impacts can include harm to fish and wildlife populations, oxygen depletion, beach closures, and other restrictions on recreational water use, restrictions on fish, and contamination of drinking water. Developing toxic-free material synthesis route shows great demand for sustainable development. In particular, green synthesized catalyst material received great attention in environmental and biomedical-based applications. Mostly, conventional chemical synthesis route contains particular stabilizer agent for obtaining low-dimensional nanoparticle or avoiding particle aggregation. Unfortunately, these chemicals are highly toxic to the environment. In this context, plant extract, biomass, and algae can be utilized as green biosurfactant without polluting the environment. In today's webinar, the recent development of green synthesis route for photocatalyst synthesis and their capability in organic pollutant removal from the water will be discussed in detail. Now, I'm welcoming our today's chief guest, Ms. Angel Joseph, research scholar from IIT Delhi for our today's webinar section. Now, I would like to welcome Assistant Professor of Civil Department, Ms. Shalu Thomas, for welcoming.
Thank you, Demina. Am I audible?
Yes, Ms. You are audible.
Good evening, all. I welcome you all for today's section. I thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. I am Shalu Thomas, Assistant Professor from the Department of Civil Engineering, UKFCT. It gives me tremendous happiness to be presenting the welcome speech for today. Firstly, I welcome our speaker, Ms. Angel Joseph, research scholar from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. Next, I welcome our head of the department, Suja ma'am, and all my dear colleagues of UKFCT. Last but not the least, I welcome all my dear students and listeners of today's section. Before we begin this webinar, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who sincerely committed to this section to make it as a success. This section would have been impossible without the support of each and everyone present here. Thank you all once again. Over to you, Demina.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I am welcoming our chief guest for presentation.
Good evening, all. Hope everybody is doing well. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude towards the HOD, Suja ma'am, Coordinator Shalu Thomas, and all other faculties of Civil Engineering Department, UKF College of Engineering, who are behind organizing this webinar and inviting me to share some of my research works that I have been doing. Now I will share my presentation. Okay, I hope my presentation is visible and I am audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today, main objective of the talk is to give a brief introduction about green synthesized photocatalyst for wastewater treatment and its application and recent advancement. As most of the participants of this webinar are BTech students, I won't be going into much detail about research-oriented talk. So it is rather I will be focusing on basics of advanced oxidation processes in wastewater treatment, then about photocatalytic processes, then synthesis aspects of photocatalyst, relevance of green photocatalyst, especially plant-based photocatalyst, and the application as well as the characterization of the plant-based photocatalyst. So when we talk about wastewater treatment, there are many treatment options. There can be physicochemical methods, biological treatment options, and even advanced oxidation process. So physicochemical methods are basically adsorption, coagulation, flocculation, and membrane separation process. But the main drawback of such process is that even for this physicochemical process, the removal of pollutant is happening. But the main drawback is that we won't be able to degrade the pollutants completely. So majority of times, we may require a secondary treatment units. So in case of biological treatment methods such as membrane bioreactor or a kind of biological oxidation process, these were also recommended, but here the problem is that most of the secondary options of the biological treatment options requires a microorganism present in the wastewater. So the ability of such treatment methods depends upon the efficiency or the ability of the microorganism present in the wastewater. But what happens is that in most cases, wastewater contains toxic pollutants that may affect the degradation efficiency of microorganism. So treatment of hazardous organic waste is an emerging issue, and advanced oxidation process, AOPs, are efficient methods to remove such organic pollutants. And even these can be utilized for degrading the contaminants which are not degradable by means of biological process. So AOPs are a set of process involving the production of a very reactive oxygen species, which are called ROS, which are able to destroy a wide range of organic compounds. So AOPs are driven by an external source such as electric power or an ultraviolet radiation or solar light. And pollutants will be then mineralized to carbon dioxide and water. So hence, in any AOP process, the main aim is to generate this reactive oxygen species that is so-called hydroxyl radicals by means of initiators such as hydrogen peroxide, O3, water, or in presence of a catalyst and a light source. So once this ROS is formed, these species will be reacting with the organic pollutants, and finally the pollutants will be degraded to water and carbon dioxide. So this represents a simplified AOP mechanism. In this first stage, as I already mentioned, there will be a formation of a strong oxidant such as hydroxyl radical. And in the second stage, the reaction of these oxidants with organic compounds in water producing a biodegradable intermediates. Finally, what happens is that the reaction of biodegradable intermediates with oxidants referred to as the mineralization process, that is the production of water and carbon dioxide and some generation of some inorganic salt. So you might be thinking, what are the possible applications of these AOPs in wastewater and drinking water treatment? So sequential application of various AOPs can treat effluents containing a mixture of organics. This approach is useful when the compound in the mixture present in different levels of reactivity towards different AOPs. So application of separation treatment prior to AOP treatment is treatment to transfer the pollutant to another phase so that they can be treated more easily. Such separation treatment includes air stripping or a coagulation process or a flocculation process or even a sedimentation or a filtration and adsorption process. So AOPs can be applied in a pre-treatment stage to enhance the biodegradability and to reduce the toxicity, followed by biological post-treatment, or even AOPs can be recommended to install at different stages of wastewater or drinking water treatment plants, depending on influent composition and desired effluent quality. So AOPs can be installed either as a tertiary treatment option after the biological treatment of wastewater or as a pre-treatment stage in order to enhance the biodegradability of trace organic contaminants. So there are many advanced oxidation processes for the treatment of this wastewater, such as these chemical, photochemical, sonochemical, and electrochemical process. But in this process, these three photochemical technologies, namely UV ozonation, UV peroxidation with hydrogen peroxide, and heterogeneous photocatalysis, which have been reported to completely destruct the numerous organic pollutants. So, however, the high cost of generation of ozone and hydrogen peroxide has made photocatalysis process very attractive. So in that cases, we will be opting for the photocatalysis process. So application of nanoparticles such as silver, titanium dioxide, copper oxide, zinc oxide were considered to be one of the main breakthrough in the advancement of photocatalytic processes. Because these nanoparticles ensures more surface area and thereby increases the selectivity of the catalyst. So basically, the synthesis of the nanoparticles includes physical, chemical, and even biological methods. One of the main drawbacks associated with the nanoparticle is that its difficulty to recover after the treatment. So hence there is a chance of these nano-sized particles or photocatalysts after treatment may escape into the environment and become another toxicant. So in most of the chemical process, they will be synthesizing the nanoparticles with the aid of some reducing and stabilizing agents, such as, for example, hydrazine, sodium borohydride, or ascorbic acid. And even these pollutants or these reducing agents will be acting as again a toxicant to the environment. So we should give more attention to the green synthesis aspects of the photocatalyst that explore sustainable methods for wastewater and water treatment. So the basic mechanism behind any photocatalytic process is that there will be photocatalyst that can be titanium dioxide, cadmium sulfide, or anything else like a photocatalyst. There will be, it can be activated by means of a light source. So when the light of a particular energy striking on the surface of the photocatalyst, the electrons from the valence band of the photocatalyst will be getting excited to the conduction band. So the band gap refers to the gap between the valence band and the conduction band. So we have to provide a light source that is sufficient enough to excite the electrons from its valence band to the conduction band. So this light source should be opted depending upon the type of photocatalyst that we are going to synthesize. So as these electrons get excited to the conduction band, leaving behind a hole in the valence band, these both electrons and holes will be acting as the initiator for the generation of the reactive oxygen species. And further, these reactive oxygen species will be reacting with dye or any other organic pollutants present in the wastewater, and finally resulting in the degradation of that pollutant. So as I already mentioned, the synthesis of a novel and green photocatalyst with high degradation potential is the need of hour. But even we need to know about the conventional synthesis process. So conventional synthesis process such as physical and chemical approaches require higher energy utilization and are comparatively expensive. In most of the chemical synthesis process, these highly toxic solvents such as solvents are required, and hence the generation of toxic byproducts are unavoidable. So recently, photocatalysts synthesized through biological routes are of great interest as it contributes to green technology, and even this green synthesized nanoparticles has many advantages as it is environment friendly, of course, and relatively these are cost effective. So in green synthesis approach, the natural substitutes like plants and even fungi, bacteria are used in the synthesis of photocatalyst. This type of green photocatalyst reduces the need for excessive chemicals. Among these natural substitutes, plants have been greatly explored for the production of these metal nanoparticles. This is because the photocatalyst, which is prepared using this plant extract, possesses better catalytic properties. So in the synthesis of plant-based photocatalyst, different parts of the plant, including as a plant, it has leaves, fruit, seeds, and all. So these different parts of the plant, including leaves, fruits, seeds, flowers, and other parts, can be utilized for the synthesis of the metal nanoparticle synthesis. So depending upon the part of the plant that we have utilized for the synthesis of the nanoparticle, the morphology of the synthesized metal nanoparticles may change. So why this plant is having this capability to produce nanoparticle is because the plants contain active biomolecules such as sugar, terpenoids, polyphenols, phenolic acids, alkaloids, and all. These are phytochemicals which causes the bioreduction of the metallic ions. So hence, preparation of a plant extract is the initial step, which will be followed by the mixing up of a precursor metal salt. So suppose we are going to synthesize titanium dioxide nanoparticle, we will be choosing a metal salt of that titanium dioxide, preferably titanium chloride. So this will be mixed with the plant extract solution. And the biomolecules, whatever that is present in the plant extract, will be causing the reduction of metallic ions and finally result in the formation of the nanoparticles or nanophotocatalyst. So the synthesis route adopted for the plant-based photocatalyst is chemically assisted, but the main difference lies in the replacement of reducing and capping agents by biomolecules of plant extract. So out of different synthesis routes, such as hot plate combustion method, co-precipitation method, hydrolysis method, and even colloidal microwave and hydrothermal process, co-precipitation and colloidal method are widely used for the synthesis of plant-based photocatalyst. So now let's see what is the basic mechanism of formation of a plant-based photocatalyst. Suppose for the synthesis of a titanium dioxide nanoparticle, in case of a co-precipitation method, precursor metal salt will be titanium chloride, and this titanium chloride will be mixed with the plant extract, followed by the addition of ammonia. This will result in the formation of a precipitate. And finally, these precipitates will be subsequently filtered and then washed with ethyl alcohol. And after the air drying and calcination at 450 degrees Celsius for about 3 to 5 hours, titanium nanoparticles will be formed. And if we look into the colloidal method of synthesis, plant extracts should be prepared and it will be again mixed with the precursor metal salt and resulting in a metal biomolecule complex formation. And further, the centrifugation at around 10,000 rpm results in the nanoparticle formation. Here, there is no need of calcination. So colloidal method is the simplest one and the most commonly used for the silver nanoparticle synthesis. In the synthesis of plant-based photocatalyst, the metal precursor solution is mixed with plant extract and the rate of the nanoparticle formation is controlled by different factors such as nature and concentration of phytochemical used and even the concentration of metal salt, then pH, temperature, electrochemical potential and reaction time. So these factors control the formation of the nanophotocatalyst as well as their stability. So if we take each factors one by one, the concentration of the plant extract has a significant influence on the shape and size of the nanoparticles. Hence, optimization of phytochemical concentration is considered to be an essential step that we have to perform in the synthesis stage of the nanoparticles. So temperature change also affects the formation of plant-based photocatalyst because as the temperature increases beyond an optimum level, it causes the degradation of active amino acids and other effective phytochemicals. So variation in pH could influence the charge transformation inside the plant metabolites and which affects its stabilization as well as the capping ability of the biometabolites. So electrochemical potential is another factor that we have to consider. Because these metal ions with higher ionizing potential could be reduced more effectively by the phytochemicals. Even we should consider the concentration of metal salt as a significant factor because if the concentration of the salt is too high, the reduction of the metal ions will not be that effective. Also, based on the synthesis route adopted, there is a significant variation in the characteristics of the nanoparticles or the nanophotoCatalyst after the synthesis. So consider once we have synthesized the plant-based photocatalyst and let's see how it will be practically used in the degradation of the contaminant. So consider this, we have synthesized a plant-based photocatalyst and this will be in suspension with the wastewater or a dye solution or the organic contaminants that we have to degrade. And as I already mentioned, depending upon the type of the photocatalyst, we have to opt the light source because in case of this titanium dioxide, usually titanium dioxide will be activated under the UV light. Because why? Because it is in the main aim of the photocatalytic process is to generate reactive oxygen species. So the excitement of the electrons from the valence band of the titanium dioxide takes place only in presence of the UV light. To overcome the band gap energy of the titanium dioxide, we have to supply that much energy through a light source. So consider a synthesis plant-based photocatalyst wherein suspension with a polluted wastewater. So when this is kept under the light source, there is suitable light source having energy sufficient enough to overcome the band gap energy incident on the surface of the photocatalyst. As I already mentioned, the valence band contains electrons that will be getting excited due to incident light and leaving behind a hole. So these excited electrons and holes act as the reducing and oxidizing agents. So these excited electrons present in the conduction band will be reacting with the organic or molecular oxygen, and while the holes generated in the valence band will be reacting with water to form the hydroxyl radical. So these electrons will be reacting with molecular oxygen to generate superoxide radical. At the same time, the holes generated at the valence band will be reacting with water to form the hydroxyl radical. So superoxide radical and hydroxyl radicals are the main reactive oxygen species that is capable of reacting with the organic pollutants and degrading into carbon dioxide and water. So once reactive oxygen species is formed, it will be again reacting with organic compounds and the degradation of the pollutants will be assured. So, but the main challenge that we have to look into in this case is that electrons, once excited to the conduction band, it won't stay there for a long time. Within a fraction of seconds, these electrons may come back to the valence band, and this process is called recombination. So we have to avoid this recombination through mixing or doping of impurities and all. So these are the some of the examples of synthesized plant-based photocatalyst adopting different synthesis routes, and these are some of the varieties of plant species utilized for the synthesis of titanium dioxide and zinc dioxide nanoparticles. Zinc oxide nanoparticles. So these biomolecules such as polyphenols, flavonoids, carboxylic acids are identified to be the dominant one. And the precursor salt, such as titanium chloride and titanium tetraisopropoxide, were mainly utilized for titanium dioxide nanophotocatalyst synthesis by following co-precipitation or salt gel process. Whereas in case of zinc oxide nanoparticle synthesis or the photocatalyst synthesis, zinc acetate dihydrate and the zinc nitrate hexahydrate were the two precursor salt utilized by following salt gel method or combustion or co-precipitation method. So we will be looking into the wastewater or the degradation of the pollutants in the wastewater using this plant-based photocatalyst. In such cases, mostly the plant-based photocatalysts are used for the degradation of organic dyes such as methylene blue, methyl orange, and even recently Gautam et al. Has reported the use of plant-based photocatalyst for the treatment of tannery wastewater with effective removal of COD as well as chromium reduction. So once this plant-based photocatalyst were synthesized, different instruments were employed for its characterization. So we have to check whether the parameters like crystallinity, structure, and surface morphology of the synthesized nanoparticles are good enough to use it for a wastewater treatment. So different instruments can be employed for the checking the parameters or the characterization of the synthesized photocatalyst. These instruments include X-ray diffraction, XRD analysis, for checking the crystallinity and structure of the nanoparticles, and field emission scanning electron microscope for determining the surface morphology. And even the band gap of the synthesized photocatalyst can be determined by employing UV visible spectrophotometer. And for the identification of functional group descent, the Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, FTIR, can be employed. And even for the energy dispersive X-ray, EDX, analysis can be done for the surface chemical composition and elemental mapping. So you might be thinking whether this planned based photocatalyst will be that effective in degrading the organic pollutants present in the wastewater. So the such applicability of this plant-based photocatalyst in treating real wastewater, that is ternary wastewater, has been recently explored by Gautam et al. This is one of the case study, and this study was to synthesis green titanium dioxide nanoparticles and to evaluate its performance for the photocatalytic treatment of ternary wastewater after the secondary biological treatment. So titanium dioxide nanoparticle was the targeted nanoparticle to synthesis, to be synthesized. So this titanium dioxide nanoparticles were synthesized using leaf extract of Jatropha plant extract, and the precursor salt was titanium chloride. Moreover, the green synthesized TiO2 nanoparticles were further characterized by UV visible spectrophotometer and FTIR measurement, and even the XRD are employed for the determination or the characterization of the nanoparticles they have synthesized. So results of this study confirm the synthesis and the anatase phase of the spherical TiO2 nanoparticles, and also unfold the presence of phytochemicals in leaf extract, which might involve in the capping or stabilization of nanoparticles. So, and for this particular study, they have utilized a self-designed fabricated parabolic trough reactor (PTR), which is shown here. So this PTR was constructed using a stainless steel aluminum chrome plated and a parabolic trough of 104 centimeter length and 84 centimeter width approximately. So the rubber tubes were further joined with a completely closed plastic tank of capacity of 5 liter, fitted with a submersible motor pump at the bottom of the bottom to maintain the continuous circulation of the wastewater throughout the solar photocatalytic treatment process. So this is one of the pilot scale study recently explored by Gautam et al. And they have effectively concluded that these plant-based photocatalysts can be effectively utilized for the degradation of organic contaminants. Even the SEM analysis was also performed in that particular study to determine the shape and estimate the average grain size of the green synthesized TiO2 nanoparticles. So these images shows the green synthesis of spherical shaped TiO2 nanoparticles with a diameter ranging from around 10 to 20 nanometer. The X-ray dispersive spectrophotometer (EDS) was employed to know whether the elemental composition of the green synthesized nanoparticle, and the EDS spectrum revealed the purity of the sample as both titanium and oxygen were present in the sample. So this further confirmed the green synthesized TiO2 nanoparticle formation. So even the optical properties of the synthesized green nanoparticles were determined from the adsorption study, and the band gap of the photocatalyst were obtained by plotting top plot. So the top plot is nothing but once we have synthesized the nanoparticles or the nanophotocatalyst, we have to determine the band gap of the synthesized photocatalyst. That is important because we have to check with that synthesized plant-based photocatalyst with the ordinary or the conventional nanoparticles which available in the market. So it will be like almost similar band gap. Or sometimes even the studies have reported the reduction in the band gap too. So that is showing an effective catalytic properties of the synthesized plant-based photocatalyst. Also, the reduction in chromium as well as the COD reduction shows that the potential of the synthesized green photocatalyst. So the study has an effective proof to show that the plant-based photocatalyst can be effectively used for the degradation of organic contaminants. So finally, I would like to conclude that the main advantage of plant-based photocatalyst is its dual role function. That is, it can act as a reducing as well as a stabilizing agent or a capping agent. So these plant extracts play a significant role in the photocatalyst formation. And even the researchers reported that plant extracts can control the charge carriers and thereby enhances the photocatalytic activity in addition to replacing the other toxic and expensive chemicals used for the synthesis of nanophotocatalyst. So different factors as I already mentioned in the previous slide, that some factors like concentration of phytochemicals or the metal salt and all is an important factor in the synthesis of the photocatalyst. So hence, more research should require to are needed to elucidate the effect of these secondary metabolites present in the plant extract that may have overall control of the morphological characteristics of the synthesized plant-based photocatalyst. So plant-based photocatalyst is a better alternative for the nanoparticles synthesized from the conventional chemical synthesis routes, where the generation rate of the toxic byproduction is toxic byproducts is very high. So this can this can be represented as a better alternative to replace that conventional chemical synthesis approaches. So as this green synthesis of photocatalyst is considered to be an evolving field, extending its scope to a commercial scale is still a challenge. But most of the research related to the plant-based photocatalyst was conducted at a laboratory scale only because of the lower catalyst production rate and limitations in its reusability as well as the immobilization. But considering this future research, I should say that we have to give more focus on the scaling up of the technology and on the treatment of the real wastewater. So thank you all for your kind attention. Any queries?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
out of these different synthesis routes, which synthesis route should be adapted for titanium dioxide nanoparticle synthesis?
Okay, so I have already discussed that actually for the titanium dioxide nanoparticle synthesis, there are basically hydrolysis process and even co-precipitation method. But I would suggest that we have to go with this co-precipitation or hydrolysis process.
Okay, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Ma'am, why plants are most adapted for the synthesis of this photocatalysis?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, for the biological synthesis, there are different biological, like we can use even bacteria or microorganism or even the fungi and all. But why plants is because plants contains these phytochemicals like flavonoids or this kind of polyphenols and all. So these phytochemicals are acting as a or it has a dual role. Like it can be a reducing agent as well as a capping agent. So it is more preferable to use these plants.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, please ask me.
Yeah,
please.
I'm also a research scholar working in the same field. So I would like to know what are the factors which you considered during the synthesizing part? Like during green synthesis, what are the parameters which you varied? Because you need to finally get an optimum value. Like, for example, if you're varying, you have told like if you're varying the temperature or if you're varying the pH accordingly, there will be some variation in the final morphology. So what are the factors which you considered? Because in my case, actually there is some problem related with controlling the size of the particle. The size I'm not getting like the one which we go with the chemical or biological, physical or chemical method, we are able to control the size, but that is not possible in case of a green method of synthesis. So I would like to know what are the factors which we should take into consideration to have a size control.
Okay, first of all, I haven't started the synthesis part. Actually, I'm in initial stage and I haven't started the synthesis part. But with this literature review or this from the literatures, I would suggest you like we have to check the phytochemicals, or it is preferable to like, or it is recommended to check the phytochemical concentrations present in the plant using kind of like a phytochemical assays. Like there is flavonoid assay, for polyphenol assay and all. So you can go with that assay and check whether the concentration of this concentration or the presence of these phytochemicals are there in the particular plant that you have opted. That is the first thing. Then I would recommend you like you have to choose the synthesis method appropriately. So which nanoparticle are you targeting? Which one you are trying to synthesis? Yeah.
Zinc oxide.
Sorry. Zinc oxide. Okay. Zinc oxide. So basically, I think for the zinc oxide, we have to go with either a co-precipitation method or salt gel method. So in that case, you have to choose the zinc salt. Salt of that precursor salt should be appropriate. So which salt you are using?
Zinc nitrate.
Okay, zinc nitrate. So in that case, you have to finalize your synthesis route, first of all. Then that also affect your morphological characteristics of the synthesis nanoparticles. Then I think pH is also an important factor because it has it may change the surface charge of the nanoparticles. So you have to consider pH also. Then I think you have to optimize all these parameters, all these concentrations or dosages or whatever you are targeting. You have to optimize this, and you have to check the characterization of this nanoparticle should be done within within a week itself, so that you won't be losing its proper characteristics. So these are the recommendations that I can give you right now because I haven't started the synthesis part. So later maybe I can help you. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
Yeah, please ask.
Ma'am, what is the main advantage of plant-based photocatalyst?
Yeah, okay. So why we are going for a biological synthesis is because these chemical or conventionally these nanoparticles are usually synthesized using many chemical methods. So why we have to replace these chemical methods is because in chemical synthesis methods we will be using different kind of reducing and capping agents like ascorbic acid or sodium borohydride and all. So we have to replace these reducing agents because these reducing agents will be again an additional toxic pollutant to the environment. In order to avoid this, we will be substituting with the plant extract so that we can avoid that that toxic pollutant load. So that is the main advantage of using this plant-based photocatalyst.
Okay, Miss. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, how can we identify these plant parts used for nanoparticle synthesis? How to choose them?
Okay, so yeah, so the plant, if we take a plant, you can use the seed as well as the leaves as well as the stem, anything of that plant to be you can be used for the synthesis of the nanoparticles. You are right. So how we have to choose is because we have to do a phytochemical assay prior. Then we have to determine the concentration of that phytochemicals in that particular part of the plant, and we have to choose accordingly. In most cases, why leaf? Because leaf contains more concentration of these phytochemicals. So usually we will go with the leaf. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi, Angel.
Yeah.
I have a query. That is whether any other waste material, such as you mentioned about the tannery waste only, right?
Yeah.
So what about other waste pollutants which are entering? How we can treat for that waste?
Yeah, Vasudha. Actually, this plant-based photocatalyst is very evolving stage only. Like they recently, like these can be applicable to tannery wastewater. That is the real wastewater study that have been done till date. But rest of the things that we have to explore with different plant species, and we have to explore with other emerging contaminants, even pharmaceuticals and all. So we have to explore in that area also. Till now, real wastewater, like tannery wastewater, is effectively degraded using this plant wastewater catalyst.
So what is the efficacy rate in the tannery wastewater?
It's around 81-85%. Yeah.
For plant-based.
Yeah, plant-based water catalyst.
Okay. So this is only for emerging contaminants to remove the emerging contaminants present in the wastewater, right?
No. It's like it can be applicable for organic pollutants like dyes, or it can be utilized for COD reduction, anything. Because overall, it is happening a photocatalytic. It is a photocatalytic process, and overall, it is a mineralization of these pollutants to carbon dioxide and water. So it can be used for the degradation of other pollutants also. But these areas are not still explored. These are like we have to explore in this area.
That's what I have a doubt in regarding pharmaceuticals and all. There will be a lot of chemicals and lot of waste will be there. So in order to remove such highly dangerous pollutants, we have to make sure, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, there's a question. What is the key role of plant extracts in nanoparticle formation?
What is the
key role of plant extracts in nanoparticle formation?
Okay, a plant extract, key role is like they will be acting as a reducing and capping agent, because overall we have to synthesize a nanoparticle. Okay, so in nanoparticle synthesis stage, these reducing and capping agent is important to preserve its morphological characteristics as well as the shape, size, and all. So, in any synthesis approach of the nanoparticles, like chemical or physical method, we will be adding a reducing and stabilizing agent. So, in chemical synthesis, I already mentioned that we will be adding like ascorbic acid or sodium borohydride and all. So, to avoid that, in plant-based photocatalysts, the role of this plant extract is they themselves will be acting, the biomolecules present in the plant extract will be acting as the reducing and the capping agent for the formation of the nanoparticles.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
ഓക്കെ, ഇനി ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടോ? ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് കൺക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യാം.
നമുക്ക് മൂവ് ഓൺ ചെയ്യാമായിരുന്നോ? ഓക്കെ, നമുക്കെങ്കിൽ മൂവ് ഓൺ ചെയ്യാം.
Thank you. Thank you all. And if anyone has any other questions or doubts, please feel free to contact me. I would be happy to help you. And even I have shared my mail ID with the coordinators. So yeah, thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving such a wonderful presentation. Now
you.
I would like to welcome head of the department, Ms. Sujaya Nair. Hello, ma'am.
Thank you, Demina. Good evening, Angel Joseph and all others present.
Good evening.
Wastewater treatment, as we all know, is always a very relevant topic. And I think what makes today's talk more relevant is its sustainability, which is actually the need of the hour. And in fact, we have seen many studies on wastewater treatment, even using sustainable methods, but most of them limit themselves to just a study. The practical applications seem to be very less. I hope that today's presentation, yours particular study, green synthesized photocatalyst for wastewater treatment, I wish and pray that this will find a way in its practical application world. And I wish you all the best for the successful completion of your PhD work. And thank you so much for sharing your observation and studies with us. And we hope to associate more with you as your study progresses and once it gets completed. Thank you so much for spending your time today, Ms. Angel Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Back to you, Demina.
Thank you, ma'am. Therefore, our section has come to an end. I use this opportunity to thank each one of you for sparing your valuable time with us. Thank you all. Let's wind up.
Thank you.